She started her new job at Myri Group, one of Korea's most powerful corporations. She was an African young woman, bright-eyed, ambitious, and armed with a gentle confidence that made her stand out even in a crowd of suits. The first few days had been overwhelming. Long hours, endless emails, and the silent pressure of working in a company that expected nothing less than perfection. But what made her mornings bearable was the friendly young man she always met at the coffee station, Changmin. He was tall, warm, and carried a quiet charm that softened his sharp jawline. He always smiled at her, offering to help with her coffee machine struggles or carry her folders when they spilled from her arms. Sami thought he was just another office worker, perhaps from a nearby department. He never talked much about himself, and she never asked. She liked the mystery. What she didn't know was that Changmin was the CEO. From the moment Sami walked into Myri Group, Changmin had noticed her. The way she greeted every staff member politely, the genuine laughter she shared with the janitor, the way she bit her lip when focusing on reports. She wasn't like anyone else in the building. While others looked at him with fear or ambition, Sami looked through him, not knowing who he really was, and treated him like a human being. He liked that. He wanted to keep it that way. So, instead of sitting in his top-floor glass office all day, he began showing up in casual clothes, blending in with the staff. He pretended to be part of the operations team, offering help here and there, just to be around her. His secretary was the only one who knew his secret and covered for him with a knowing smile. One afternoon, Sami was struggling with some files in the storage room. Papers fell from her hands, fluttering across the floor. Changmin appeared quietly behind her and knelt to help pick them up. Their hands brushed, and she froze, looking up into his warm brown eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Anytime," he replied, smiling softly. "You always seem so busy. Don't you ever rest?" She chuckled. "I'm still trying to prove myself. Being new isn't easy." "You're doing great," he said, his tone sincere. "People notice your effort, even when you think they don't." Something about the way he said it made her heart skip. She didn't know why, but when he looked at her, it felt as if he saw more than her resume. He saw her. Over the next few weeks, their connection deepened. Changmin would bring her snacks during late work nights, walk her to the bus stop, and listen to her stories about her family back home in Africa. Sami began to rely on him emotionally, though she tried not to admit it. He was kind, thoughtful, and had an aura that made her feel safe, like the world slowed down when he was near. One rainy evening, she forgot her umbrella. The rest of the office had already left, and she was stranded near the building entrance. Suddenly, a black car stopped in front of her. The door opened, and there was Changmin, holding an umbrella. "Hop in," he said gently. She hesitated. "This car looks expensive. Are you sure it's okay?" He smiled faintly. "It's mine." She blinked in surprise. "You have a driver?" "Sometimes," he said vaguely, holding back a laugh. Inside the car, the silence between them was thick but sweet. The city lights reflected off her soft skin, and Changmin couldn't stop glancing at her. When he dropped her off, she turned to him and whispered, "Thank you, Changmin. You're different." He wanted to tell her everything. Who he really was, how he'd been watching over her since day one, how every smile she gave made him fall deeper. But he didn't. Not yet. He wanted her to love him, not the CEO everyone worshipped. Days later, she found out something strange. During a company briefing, the real CEO, someone she'd never seen, was expected to appear. Everyone rushed to the hall in excitement. Sami stood in the crowd, curious. Then he walked in. The man on stage, dressed in a sleek black suit, was Changmin. Her heart stopped. The whispers around her faded into a dull hum as she stared, speechless. The same man who helped her with papers, who shared ramen with her in the cafeteria, who laughed under the rain, was the billionaire CEO. Their eyes met across the hall. For a moment, time stood still. Later that evening, she found him waiting for her in the garden outside the building. "I wanted to tell you," he said softly, stepping closer. "But I didn't want you to see me as just another boss." She looked down, her voice trembling. "You lied to me." "I didn't mean to," he whispered. I just wanted to be real with you, Sami. With you, I could breathe. You didn't treat me like the world did. Her eyes met his again, filled with conflict, pain, and something deeper. After a long pause, she said quietly, You still owe me coffee tomorrow morning. Changmin smiled, relief flooding his face. He took a careful step closer, brushing a raindrop from her cheek. Then I'll bring you one every morning, until you forgive me. And under the soft drizzle of Seoul's night, Sami's heart began to melt again. Not for the CEO everyone admired, but for the man who'd chosen to hide his power just to be near her. Their love didn't need titles or luxury. It was hidden beneath stolen smiles, quiet glances, and the truth of two hearts finding each other in a world built on appearances. The next morning, Sami walked into the Myri Group office earlier than usual. She needed space to think. The night before, sleep had evaded her. Her mind tangled between confusion, disbelief, and something she didn't want to name yet. How could he, Changmin, the man who held her hand when she was nervous, the man who laughed with her over coffee, also be the CEO who ruled an empire with his signature? As she passed by the coffee station, the familiar scent of roasted beans hit her senses. And there he was, already waiting, holding 2 cups. His usual smile was softer today, hesitant, almost apologetic. I didn't think you'd come, he said quietly. I work here, she replied, her voice steady though her heart trembled. He offered her a cup. Extra cream, no sugar. Just how you like it. She took it but didn't drink. You remembered. I remember everything about you, he said softly. Even the way you hum when you're focused. Sami's eyes lifted to his, deep, sincere, searching. Why me, Changmin? You could have anyone. Why pretend to be someone else? He sighed, his shoulders sinking slightly. Because every time people look at me, they see my wealth, my title, my power. But you looked at me and saw me. I didn't want to lose that. I didn't want to scare you away with who I was. She stared at her cup, her chest tightening. You still lied. I know, he admitted. And I'm sorry. But what I felt for you was never a lie. For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy but not cold. She could hear the faint hum of the office outside, phones ringing, footsteps echoing. But in that tiny coffee corner, the world seemed to shrink until it was just the two of them. Then, with a sigh, she whispered, You confuse me, Changmin. My heart doesn't know whether to be angry or grateful. He gave a small, hopeful smile. Maybe both. Her lips twitched, but she didn't reply. Over the next few days, Changmin kept his distance, at least publicly. But behind the scenes, his eyes always found her in the crowd. He would pass by her desk with quiet admiration, leave little notes of encouragement, and sometimes, when no one was looking, slide her favorite snacks beside her computer. Sami, though still guarded, couldn't stop thinking about him. She missed their easy conversations, his gentle humor, the warmth in his gaze. But she was also wary. Love, she thought, shouldn't start with a lie. Yet one evening, fate intervened again. A company dinner was hosted at a rooftop restaurant in Gangnam. The skyline shimmered with silver lights, and the air was cool with the scent of jasmine. Sami stood by the railing, looking out at the city, her mind drifting. Beautiful view, a familiar voice said behind her. She turned. Changmin stood there, no longer the humble man in rolled sleeves, but the elegant CEO in a navy suit. Still, when he looked at her, the same softness lingered in his eyes. You always find me when I'm trying to be alone, she said, a faint smile touching her lips. Maybe it's because we were never meant to be strangers, he replied. Sami exhaled slowly, her gaze returning to the horizon. Do you always talk like that? He laughed lightly. Only with you. Silence fell again, but this time it wasn't awkward. The city below seemed to hum in rhythm with their quiet hearts. Sami, he began after a while. I know I broke your trust, but I don't want to hide anymore. I want you to see me, all of me, and still choose to stay. Not because I'm the CEO, but because I'm the man who fell for you the moment you smiled. Her eyes glistened under the moonlight. You make it sound so easy. It isn't. he admitted, stepping closer. But maybe that's what makes it real. When she looked up, he was standing just inches away. His hand hesitated in the air before he gently tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. Her breath caught. His touch was careful, almost reverent. "I don't want to pressure you," he said softly, "but if you ever give me the chance, I'll spend every day proving that my love is the only truth I have." Sami's heart pounded so loud she could barely think. Her voice was a whisper when she replied, "Then start by not hiding anymore." He smiled, that boyish, unguarded smile she had fallen for. "Deal." And under the soul night sky, surrounded by city lights and soft music, they stood side by side, two souls caught between truth and tenderness. Sami didn't know where it would lead, but as his fingers brushed hers, she realized something undeniable. Sometimes love isn't about how it starts, but about who's brave enough to keep fighting for it. Sami kept her distance at work, not out of pride, but fear. She could already feel the whispers whenever she walked into the office. "The CEO seems to talk to her a lot. Have you noticed how often he passes by her desk? She must be special." Those words stung, even when she tried to ignore them. She didn't want anyone thinking she'd earned her place because of a man. Not even if that man's gaze made her heart flutter every time he looked at her. Changmin noticed the change. He saw how she avoided the break room when he was there, how her laughter became guarded when others were watching. It hurt him more than he'd ever admit. One afternoon, he found her in the quiet company garden behind the building, sitting alone on a stone bench, her eyes downcast. He approached slowly, his footsteps soft on the gravel. "You're hiding from me again," she sighed without looking up. "I'm just trying to survive this job without anyone thinking I'm here because of you." Changmin knelt beside her, his tone gentle. "You're here because you earned it, Sami. Everyone knows that, even if some can't admit it." She looked at him then, her eyes shimmering. "You don't understand. They look at me differently now, like I'm some charity case you took interest in." He reached for her hand, brushing his thumb against her skin. "Let them talk. The truth will outlast their words." Her chest tightened, his sincerity breaking through her walls. "But what about you? You're risking your reputation too." "I don't care," he said simply. "What matters is how I feel about you." Their eyes locked, the world fading until only the sound of leaves rustling surrounded them. He leaned closer, his voice low. "If loving you is a risk, then it's one I'll take every time." Sami's heart melted at the raw honesty in his tone. Her walls cracked, and she finally whispered, "You make it so hard to stay mad at you." He smiled softly. "Then don't." From that day, things changed. Changmin stopped hiding his affection. Subtle but sure. He would wait by the elevator just to walk her to her office. He'd bring her lunch during her busy hours, and sometimes, when meetings ran late, he'd personally drive her home, much to the silent shock of his assistants. He didn't care about the rumors anymore. If anyone dared to question his actions, his icy CEO stare ended the conversation before it began. One evening, after a long, exhausting day, Sami returned home to find a small package by her door. Inside was a note and a simple silver bracelet, delicate, elegant, engraved with her initials. The note read, "For the woman who made my world feel human again." See, her heart ached. Not with confusion this time, but with something deeper. She traced the engraving, smiling through the tears that gathered at the corners of her eyes. The next morning, she wore it. When she walked into the office, Changmin's eyes immediately noticed. A small, knowing smile curved his lips, but he said nothing. Neither did she. But the air between them spoke volumes, a quiet acknowledgement that their hearts had already chosen. One Friday evening, the company hosted a gala at the Grand Seoul Hotel. It was a night of glitter, music, and wine. Sami wore a long satin dress, simple yet radiant, and for the first time, she felt every eye in the room turn toward her. Changmin arrived later, his presence commanding as always. But when his gaze found Sami across the hall, the mask of the powerful CEO slipped for a heartbeat. He crossed the room slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. Conversations paused, whispers rippled, and by the time he reached her, even the music seemed to fade. "Miss Sami," he said formally, his lips curved with restrained affection. "You look breathtaking tonight." Her cheeks warmed. "Thank you, Mr. CEO." He leaned closer, his voice dropping low. "You still owe me that dance." She blinked. "I don't remember promising one." "You didn't," he murmured with a faint smile. "But I'm asking now." Without waiting for an answer, he offered his hand. She hesitated only a second before taking it. Under the chandeliers, they moved together, her hand in his, her heart racing in rhythm with his steps. Their eyes met and held, unguarded and full of things unsaid. Around them, the murmurs grew louder, but neither cared. When the song ended, he whispered against her ear, "Let them see. I'm not ashamed of loving you." Sami's heart skipped. His words weren't loud, but they carried enough weight to silence the doubts she'd been clinging to. As he pulled back slightly, she looked up at him, her voice soft, trembling, but sure. "Then don't ever stop." And in that crowded hall, under the watchful eyes of 100 people, Chongmin smiled. Not the smile of a CEO, but of a man utterly, undeniably in love. The night of the gala marked a silent turning point. After that dance, no one could deny what they had seen. The CEO's eyes glowing with something far deeper than professional courtesy, and the young woman from Africa who had somehow captured his heart. By Monday morning, whispers had turned into waves. Every corner of Myri Group buzzed with murmurs. She must have done something special. How could the CEO fall for her? She's not even Korean. Sami could feel every stare. They cut like tiny knives, subtle but constant. She buried herself in work, keeping her head down, but she couldn't silence the voice in her mind that whispered, "You don't belong here." Chongmin, on the other hand, noticed everything. The whispers, the glances, the way she avoided the cafeteria now, choosing to eat alone at her desk. It tore at him, seeing her light dim because of the world's judgment. That afternoon, he called her to his office. She hesitated at the door, her heart pounding as she looked around the elegant space, a place she'd never entered before. When he rose from behind his desk, she realized he looked tired, not from work, but from worry. "You've been avoiding me," he said quietly. She tried to smile. "You're the CEO. I'm just trying not to make things harder for you." He stepped closer, his voice low but firm. "Harder for me? Sami, this company is mine. No one makes things hard for me." "Maybe not for you," she replied, her tone trembling. "But they look at me like I stole something that wasn't mine." He paused. Her words hit him like a blade. She turned away, her voice breaking. "I worked hard to earn respect here, Chongmin. I don't want to lose it just because of how I feel about you." He closed the distance between them slowly, gently taking her hand. "Then let me protect you. You don't have to face this alone." Tears glimmered in her eyes. "You can't fight the world for me. Watch me." That evening, Chongmin made a move no one expected. At the next executive meeting, in front of department heads and shareholders, he addressed the rumors directly. "I've heard the talks," he began, his tone calm but commanding. "And I'll be clear, Miss Sami has earned her place at Myri through merit. Anyone who questions her worth questions my judgment." A stunned silence followed. No one dared to meet his eyes. He added, "And one more thing. My personal life is not up for office gossip. Anyone caught spreading lies will face consequences." It was the kind of statement that silenced an entire building. When Sami heard what he'd done, her chest ached with something fierce and tender. Pride, fear, and love all tangled together. He had stood for her, not as a CEO protecting his image, but as a man defending the woman who mattered to him. He smiled softly, touching her cheek. "It's not easy, but it's worth it." Her resolve began to melt under his gaze. Slowly, she reached up, her fingers brushing against his tie. "You know this could destroy everything you've built, right? Then let's build something new," he whispered. Her breath caught. The world seemed to stop as he leaned in, his forehead resting gently against hers. "Sami, I've spent years running a company. You're the first person who made me feel again. And in that quiet space above the city, away from the rumors, away from the rules, she let herself fall. Their lips met softly, not rushed but real. It was a promise unspoken, one that said we'll face it together. From that night onward, their relationship became a secret that was no longer secret. Everyone knew, but no one dared to speak. And as weeks passed, something changed. Sami no longer hid. She walked with her head high, her confidence restored. She worked harder, proving every day that she was not just the CEO's love, but a woman of value and strength. Chongmin watched her grow with quiet pride, his admiration deepening with every passing day. She had become his calm in chaos, his warmth after years of cold corporate life. Weeks passed, and the chaos surrounding their relationship began to fade. The rumors softened, replaced by the undeniable truth. Sami was not just a pretty face attached to the CEO's heart. She was a force of brilliance, compassion, and quiet resilience. Chongmin had always admired her professionalism, but lately, he saw something deeper. A fire, a purpose that went beyond office walls. It began one afternoon when Sami entered his office, holding a folder close to her chest. Her eyes were bright, her voice soft but eager. Chongmin, she began a little shyly. I've been thinking about something, a project. He looked up from his laptop, immediately curious. A project? She nodded, stepping closer. Yes, you know how Myri Group has all these corporate charity programs, funding schools, health drives, and all that. He tilted his head. Of course. Why? I've been researching communities here in Seoul, especially those where immigrant families and local orphans live side by side. They're overlooked, struggling to adapt, and many children don't even have access to basic learning materials. I thought maybe we could start something personal, a foundation, focused on education and mentorship. Chongmin's gaze softened as he watched her, the passion lighting up her eyes, her hands trembling slightly with excitement. You've already been thinking this through, haven't you? He said, a small smile tugging at his lips. Sami smiled, a little embarrassed. I couldn't stop once the idea came. I even drafted a proposal. I just didn't want to bother you with it if it's not realistic. He stood up, walked around his desk, and stopped right in front of her. His voice dropped low, tender, filled with pride. You could never bother me, Sami. You're the most realistic dream I've ever had. Her cheeks warmed, but before she could speak, he added, let's make it happen. Together. The following weeks became a whirlwind. Chongmin cleared a budget, Sami led the planning, and soon the Myri Hope Initiative was born. A partnership of heart and vision. They visited schools in underprivileged districts, met children who reminded Sami of her younger self, curious, hungry for opportunity. And every time she knelt to speak with them, Chongmin would stand behind, watching her with quiet adoration. She wasn't just his love anymore. She was his inspiration. One afternoon, while visiting a small learning center outside Seoul, Sami sat on the floor surrounded by children coloring pictures. A little girl tugged at her hand and whispered shyly, Uni, is that man your husband? Sami blushed. No, sweetheart. He's someone special. Chongmin, overhearing from the doorway, chuckled softly, his eyes never leaving her. That evening, as they drove back to the city, the golden sunset spilling through the car windows, Sami leaned against the glass, smiling softly. They're beautiful, those kids, she said. They remind me why I came here, to build something that matters. Chongmin turned slightly toward her. You've already done that, Sami. You built me. She looked at him, surprised. He continued, his voice calm but raw. Before you, everything in my life was numbers, deals, profit margins. You taught me what it means to feel again, to give without expecting anything back. You changed how I see the world. Her chest tightened. Chongmin. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You've changed me in ways I can't even explain. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. The hum of the car and the fading light wrapping them in something intimate and unspoken. Chongmin watched the moment, his heart swelling with pride and love. When she rose, he whispered near her ear, "You're the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to this company." She smiled softly. "No, Chongmin, we did this together." He nodded, his gaze full of admiration. "Then I don't ever want to do anything without you." Later that night, after everyone had left, they stood alone in the empty ballroom. The lights were dim, music faintly playing from somewhere distant. Sami leaned against him, her head resting on his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked quietly. "Falling for me? I mean, with all the noise, the pressure, the stares?" Chongmin tightened his arms around her. "Never. I'd rather face the world's noise than live in silence without you." She smiled against his chest, feeling tears prick her eyes. Tears of love, not pain. He lifted her chin gently, looking into her eyes. "Sami, this what we're building, what we're sharing. It's bigger than titles or fear. You've become my peace." Her lips curved into a trembling smile. "And you've become my home." They stood there, lost in the quiet glow of love. Two souls who had defied judgment, fear, and expectation to find something real. For now, there were no talks of rings or promises of forever. Just the steady truth of two hearts that had chosen each other. Again and again, even when it wasn't easy. And as Seoul's city lights shimmered beyond the glass, Sami whispered softly, "Whatever comes next, we face it together." Chongmin smiled, pressing his forehead to hers. Always. Months after the Myri Hope initiative took flight, Sami and Chongmin's love seemed unstoppable. Their foundation had become a nationwide success, praised by media, schools, and local communities. For the first time, Chongmin felt more than just respected. He felt fulfilled. But in the world of power, happiness always comes with a price. It began quietly. A rumor, whispered in corners, spreading like smoke. A rival corporation accused Myri Group of misusing charity funds. A false claim, but powerful enough to attract headlines. Within days, the story exploded across business news networks. Myri Group under investigation. CEO's charity linked to financial irregularities. The public turned fast. Investors demanded answers. The board grew restless. And soon, the once bright project Sami had poured her heart into was under scrutiny. In the chaos, the spotlight turned toward her. News outlets began digging into her background, painting her as an outsider who had influenced the CEO's decisions. Online tabloids called her the CEO's foreign girlfriend who ruined Myri's image. It broke her heart, not because of what they said, but because she could see how much it hurt him. Late one evening, Chongmin sat in his office, the city lights reflecting off the glass walls. The man who once radiated calm now looked weary. His jaw clenched, his tie loosened, his eyes dark with frustration. When Sami entered, he didn't look up. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "I should," she replied, walking closer. "This isn't just your fight, Chongmin. It's ours." He finally lifted his gaze, the storm in his eyes almost breaking her. "They're blaming you, Sami, saying I created the foundation because of you, that you used me." She flinched but held her ground. "And do you believe them?" His expression softened instantly. "You know I don't." She stepped closer until she was right before him. "Then stop shutting me out. Let me help." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "This is my responsibility. I can't let you take the hit." She shook her head, her voice trembling but strong. "You don't get to decide that for me. This foundation, this dream was ours. If we started it together, then we'll defend it together." He looked at her for a long moment, his chest rising and falling heavily, before finally whispering, "You're too good for this world, Sami, and you're too stubborn for yours." She shot back softly, earning the faintest curve of a smile from him. The next day, Sami made a bold move. Without telling Chongmin, she called a press conference. Standing before a crowd of reporters, flashing cameras, and skeptical investors, she spoke with quiet courage. "I am Sami Nwosu," she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "And I'm here to tell you the truth about the Myri Hope Initiative." She explained everything, how the project began from her personal idea, how every donation and expense was transparently managed, how she had no access to company funds. Then she paused, looking directly into the cameras. "I didn't fall in love with a CEO. I fell in love with a man who believed that kindness could change the world. If that belief makes us guilty, then I'll stand beside him and face it proudly." The hall fell silent. Her sincerity struck something deeper than any corporate defense ever could. Within days, auditors confirmed that the accusations were false, fabricated by a rival firm seeking to sabotage Myri Group's rising influence. The news reversed overnight. Headlines now read, "False allegations exposed. Myri Foundation cleared of all charges. CEO Chong Min and his partner Sami praised for integrity and transparency." That evening, Chong Min found Sami on the rooftop, the wind brushing through her hair. Her eyes turned toward the city she had come to love. He walked up quietly, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "You didn't have to do that," he murmured against her ear. "Facing the press like that, you could have been crushed." She turned in his arms, meeting his gaze. "I couldn't watch you fall for something we both built. I'd rather stand in the storm with you than hide in safety alone." His eyes softened, emotion glistening behind them. "You're my light, Sami. When everything darkens, you always find me." She smiled faintly. "That's what love does, isn't it?" He didn't answer. He simply pulled her closer, holding her like he never wanted to let go. "I almost lost you to this madness," he whispered. "If anything had happened." She placed a hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat beneath her palm. "Then promise me you won't ever shut me out again. We're a team, Chongmin. In love, in work, in everything." He nodded slowly, his forehead resting against hers. "You have my word." Episode 1 ends here. The next episode comes up soon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment. Also share and subscribe to my channel and click on the notification icon so that you will get notified whenever a new story is uploaded.